Hi, welcome back to part 5, cylinder head this time. Right, the cylinder head. There doesn't seem to be a quick way of getting this carbon deposit off that I can find. But I think it's best to sort of get it off while the valves are in before I take the valves out. So on the other one, this is how you can expect to get it, but that's just WD-40, scraping away with a razor blade, rubbing it with Scotch Brite, WD-40, scraping it away, rubbing it down with Scotch Brite. And I left the valves in because I figured that I'd want to protect the seats. So that's all cleaned while the valves are in. And then I'll take the valves out of this head as well and put new valve seals in. But I'll show you how I do that. So it takes a long time. So I'll just run you through the process of what I've done. So I'm afraid it's just more of the same until you manage to get it to your satisfaction. I found I'm doing it and I'm going, oh, I've only got that little bit to do now. But I expect to be a good half hour on this. And there might be other ways of doing it with chemicals or something like that maybe, but everything I've found online seems to refer to American chemicals that I can't find over here, although I haven't looked really well. And this does get the job done, and all the chemicals were like 24 quid. Anyway, you get the picture. Right, this has been about 20 minutes. So you can see I'm actually getting there. One piece at a time. And I don't think this is entirely necessary. Mine wasn't too bad. It was quite a thin coating. But I thought, well, I've got this far and I am trying to do it, you know, carefully and fairly as well as I can manage. So I thought it's worth going that extra mile probably. And I'm not under any time restraint. I mean, I'm not going to ride it in January, February now, but so I'm not wasting bike time, as it were. But you can see what I mean when I say you just got to scrape away at it. Slowly getting there. Right, I reckon that's taken about half an hour. So I reckon that's good enough for me. And then I'll just tidy up when I get round to the valves. Stanley knife seems to be about the best I've found so far. This is the bit I like. Labbly jabbly. And these marks are actually indents in the aluminium, so I think it's a kind of like a, almost like a chemical etching's gone on between the gasket and the head. Now, because I'm showing you how I've gone about doing this, what I did was, this is a piece of quite thick guaranteed flat glass used for honing, flattening honing stones, and this is 600 grit paper. And I haven't read this in the manual, but I didn't think it would do any harm. And I'm not going to do it much. And then the manual says the flatness, it should be 0.152, I think. Anyway, I'm doing it at 0.1. So I think that's well within spec. There's absolutely no daylight. That's well and truly in there. Gosh. I'll just do all the threads like this. Most of them are alright. Now I don't know if you can see in here that this comes off fairly easily. So I can't film that very well and do it, so just take it from red that I'm going to scrape all that out and I'll show you when I've finished. I don't know if you can see in there, but I'll do the rest when the valve is out. And this, like the other side, doesn't need much work on it at all really. Right, that's all right. So this is 0.1. So I'm pretty sure that's alright. I'll check that again when I've got the valves out, but that looks fine to me. Quite pleased with this. So I think that was worth the effort. I think they're fine as well. So the valve's out. That's the next thing to do. So I'll just get that started, and I'm going to tilt it down so that I can get these collars out. A little bit more. There, these things, little retaining collars, and they have to go back where they came from, the same side. So this is the inlet side that I'm doing. So that's the inlet, all cleaned up in there. And now for the exhaust. I just don't want these little retaining clips to go on the floor. So that's one. That's two. Good. Exhaust. I am holding this really gently. This one's the inlet. Happy with that. And this one's the exhaust. So this is the inlet. I'll just put some oil in there. And I know this doesn't take much. I think they're all right anyway, but and you just lift it up. Tiny bit more, I think, not much. From experience, it's really easy to go over the top with this. It actually cuts quite a lot of material off. And this is the fine, I haven't used coarse, it's just fine grinding paste. Just make sure we don't get any on the shaft. I think that's good. Manual says the valve seat should be between 1.016 millimeters and 1.575 millimeters. I can't actually get the vernier in there very easily, if at all actually, but I can see from here it's under 1.5, so I'm going to call that okay. And then this doesn't look like it's got any pitting in it, so I'm happy with that. And the valve springs, the free length is 59.1 millimeters, and it says replace if less than. That's 60, so that's the inlet. This is the exhaust, 59.53, 59.57, so it's 59.1, so that's okay as well. Now the exhaust, like I said, I don't think they really needed doing, but while I'm here and all that, Yeah, that's below 1.5. Yep, I think that's okay. Right, so it says no specialist tool, so that just pops off. Oh, come on. Well, that's a bit of a mystery. That's almost like it was melted on. Anyway, yeah, I think the rubber was melted. Well, that's the exhaust, so I guess it would get hotter. I was being quite careful not to grip the valve stem thing, the valve guide. I think this will clean up okay. There's just little bands of the rubber melted on there. Good, right then. On with the new. And it says once you put the new valve seals on, you can't take the valves out again. So I've got to make sure everything's nice and clean and hunky-dory before I do that. Right, well this exhaust one was really quite grubby, and it took a while to get make sure I got all the rubber off from around here. There's a couple of little bands that were really stubborn, and it says that the valves they're seated when they're actually touching the casing there, so I want to make sure that's clean as well, and then obviously clean down inside the tubes, the valve guides, make sure there's no rough bits in there. So that took a little bit longer than expected, but I think I'm happy. Okay, they look nice and clean to me, so I'm happy with that. Yep. Okay. And also with this kit, which is 18094-02A valve seal kit, you get the little plastic tube to stick over the end of the valve stem so you don't get the seal scratched, which I think is quite cool. So that's that. So first we put the valves in, and then we put the stems on top of the valves. So this is the exhaust. And that's my little cover. And this is the inlet. So I'm going to do the exhaust first. That's it. And the other side. That's good. Yep, that looks all right. Now the inlet. I found that one a bit of a fiddle. Okay, both in. So that's the other head done. And the only other thing I've done is I've cleaned off all the way around there because the paint was bitty, so that was quite lumpy around here, and I can't think that that's going to make a very good seal, so I scraped it all off and smoothed that down. That's the end of number 5. Just waiting for the bits now, and then I'll put it back together again, which will be number 6. Thanks for watching. Cheerio.